A while back I issued a challenge to 5 of you to play the Well I Never tag game. Rules of it were simple. I threw out 5 things that I had never done, and each of you had to respond to my 5 things, and then you had to name 5 things that you've never done. Now, since I originated the game, I offered to come back, and after all of my tags had given me each of their 5 items, I would address those 5 items and make a response. I'm running a little behind on my response, but I've had a couple of things interrupt with me that I really didn't have any control over. But here's my response to my tags. J123108 told me that he had never played with fire. Well, I've played with fire. When I was a kid, I nearly set fire to my pup tent, and says never been to Disney World. Well, I never have either. I never got to go. Jay said he's never had a dog die. Well, unfortunately, I've outlived several pets, and yes, I have had several of my pets die. Jay has never smoked a cigarette. Good on you, buddy. Don't ever pick the nasty things up. I smoked for about 22 or 23 years. I had to quit, and it's probably one of the hardest damn things I ever had to do. So stay with that. If you can go through life and say I never smoked a cigarette, more power to you, buddy. And Jay says that he's never won in a Kevin versus Spike competition. Well, I've never been in a competition with Kevin, but having watched some Kevin and Spike competitions, I don't think there's much way to win against that young lad. Okay, my next tagger is Olsern from Norway. Olsern says he's never been in a big country. I live in Texas. Yeah, I've been to a big country. Well, seriously, America is a large country. Olsern says he's never seen Santa. Now, I've never seen Santa, but since I was the father to 3 children, I have been Santa on a number of occasions. Olsern says he's never killed anyone, even by accident. Well, neither have I, and I hope I leave this life being able to say that. Olsern never hunted a cell phone signal. Partner, you're pretty lucky, because out where I live, they have a SUV that makes a 5-mile trip, 5 miles, 20 miles round trip. And there's 3 people in there, including the not including the driver. And they have boards with cell phones on them. And they make this circle twice a day, and they have for the last 6 years, checking cell phone signals, because I live in an area where the signal just kind of drifts through. You know the Verizon, can you hear me now, guy? That sucker can't even get a postcard where I live. So yes, I have hunted a cell phone signal. And Olsern says he's never made a tag video. I guess I have. Okay, Mike, my good friend Mike, mrobertb, has never been scuba diving. Well, my first college degree is in marine science, and I had to do a lot of scuba diving back when I was younger. Don't do it anymore, but I did. Mike's never watched an entire episode or season of American Idol. Never watched an entire season. I've watched a couple of episodes, but I don't claim to watch American Idol. At the time I was watching David Archuleta because I thought he was a pretty good little artist. Mike's never eaten sushi. Well, this is one I wish I could claim that I never had either, but I unfortunately have eaten sushi. It tastes just exactly like raw fish. The restaurant where I ate it, the waitress brought out this tray with all these pretty little rolls of fish on it, you know, different colors and everything. Each one of them tastes exactly the same, like raw fish. And I asked her, I said, what's the difference? She said, oh, it's the texture. You have to appreciate the difference in textures. And I went, yeah, Mike, it's bait. Cook it, I'll eat it. Mike's never watched an episode of South Park. I have. It's unusual, but the only reason I have is because sometimes when I'm at work, I eat lunch in the office, and there's a TV in there, and my boss watches it. So, what are you going to do? Mike's never been to a professional tennis game. Well, since at one time I was a professional tennis umpire, I've been to a lot of professional tennis games. Okay, Josh, Honda Boy 89, he claims that he's never been out of the country. Well, I have been out of the country. I've been to Mexico. That's about as far as I've gone. Josh has never been to a Shoney's restaurant. Neither have I. And I looked it up, and it's about a 6-hour drive to the nearest one, so there's a pretty good chance that I never will. Josh has never eaten a house pet. I have never knowingly eaten a house pet. However, one time I had lunch at a little Vietnamese restaurant down in Houston. And they served sort of a stew. There was meat in the stew, and I was eating along, and I bit into this piece of meat, had a bone in it. I started pulling this bone out, and this bone was smaller and more delicate than any other kind of bone from any other kind of meat I've ever eaten before. So I don't think I've ever eaten a house pet, but I can't say for positively sure. I've never done it knowingly. Josh never learned to drive a stick shift. I learned to drive in a stick shift automobile. My first my first 3 or 4 vehicles were stick shifts, and now these days I drive a stick shift. It's not all that difficult. Josh has never been part of 5 awesome anythings on YouTube. Neither have I. Okay. My last responder was Scotty2Hottie123. Scotty has never been to a strip club. Alright, now I used to be a construction engineer, and there's 2 places where business gets served and gets discussed in Texas. On the golf course and in strip clubs. And I don't play golf. So yeah, I've been to strip clubs a number of times. I've eaten a lot of lunches that the food was terrible, but I assume the entertainment was good. Scotty's never spent a night in jail. Neither have I. Hope I never do. Scotty's never crashed a car. I've crashed a couple of them. Wasn't my fault, but once. Scotty's never downloaded porn. Scotty, I know Libby's watching, so I'll go along with that. And I have. Next one. Never made a parachute jump. Neither have I. I have no reason whatsoever to jump out of a perfectly operating airplane. That's one thing that I don't think that I'll ever decide to do, because I have an innate fear of the sense of falling. So what do you do when you jump out of a plane? You feel like you're falling. I'd be dead before I hit the ground anyway. Well, that's my response to the 25 items. I'm sorry it took me so long to get it here, but I do appreciate all the responses, and we'll find something else to play here before long. Thank you.